Hello guys, welcome to Adam Talks Football and the first video on the channel. The first video we're going to be doing is talking about the Manchester City possible 2-year ban from the Champions League, and obviously as well as that the £30 million fine that they're probably going to get alongside of it. For people who don't understand what financial fair play is, I'll give you a quick basic layman's terms version of what financial fair play is. Basically, it's clubs can't really spend more than they earn, basically, so they can't be spending more money than they're earning. It's something UEFA brought in to sort of help clubs last longer, over the thing, because the debt carried by the top teams wasn't sustainable. Because obviously you can't go, if you're making, say, 100, for example, net worth 100 million a year, you can't be spending 300 million every year and piling that debt because you're not going to be able to pay it off. So it's their way of saying you can't really spend more than you earn, so you won't more than likely go out of business, as it were, because obviously, as I said, it wasn't sustainable, the money people were spending. And that's literally in layman's terms. But we'll go right into how they've sort of spent the money and how it's come along that they've sort of been judged by UEFA to be breaching financial fair play. I think the main point was obviously their kit sponsor at the moment is Etihad Airlines or Airways, which is obviously Sheikh Mansour's company, which is the owner of Manchester City. Obviously, their kit deal was usually worth a lot. I said the kit deal was supposed to be up to, I think, about £67.5 million in that, somewhere in that region. But since it was investigated by UEFA, and that has been investigated into, they found out out of that £67.5 million, however much it is, only £8 million actually coming from Etihad Airlines towards the kit deal. Because obviously then that's money they're making through the kit deal. The other 5.9.5 million is coming from another Abu Dhabi based company owned by Sheikh Mansour. So obviously it's obviously they're subsidising the kit deal with a majority of the 59 million not coming from the actual kit sponsor. So it's basically, it's the equivalent of in a way it's the equivalent of taking it out of his back pocket and putting it into the club, which obviously you can do, but they're putting it under money they're earning, which they weren't earning technically because it wasn't through the kit deal. So obviously that's where that breach has come in. But we'll sort of go on to now how they could what could possibly affect Man City if it does go through, because obviously we'll go through the punishments again quickly. The punishments are a £30 million fine alongside a 2-year ban from the Champions League. If that does come into effect, obviously I think it could affect them quite drastically, as I think most people do. There's a good chance that obviously I think that the manager will leave, Pep Guardiola would leave. Obviously at the moment him and all the sort of star players come out pledging that they'll stay at the club. Even if they went down to League Two, because there was talk if they could be relegated down to League Two, which is I think nonsense anyway. But there was that talk going on that they'd all stay at the club, and no matter what happened, they'd be at the club. But obviously, Guardiola's not really a manager known for staying past his contract. He'll see his contract out, then he'll go on to his next challenge or something else he wants to do. And obviously, I think his contract is till 2021, which is obviously next year. So even if he did stay to the end of his contract, he'd still go in that period of them not having Champions League football. But I don't think he'd possibly stay out, because why would you? His goal, he was brought into Manchester City to win the Champions League, and obviously when they've been banned out of the Champions League, he won't be able to actually manage in it and win it, which is obviously what he wants. There's a little bit in I think that might make him stay, because obviously they were hunting Pep for a few years before they got him, which makes him, obviously, I think he has a sort of a nice affiliation with the club where he feels wanted, and obviously feels like he probably owes them something, which is the Champions League, because that's what he's brought in to do. So there's a little bit of me who thinks he might stay past the 2 years, sign another contract just to win the Champions League, because it's feel like the thing I think at the club that he's been missing, and that's what obviously I'm pretty sure on his job title or his contract, sorry, that was on his contract, what he needed to do was win the Champions League. Obviously he hasn't done that yet, and I feel like he won't feel complete, the person he is, until he's done that. So there's a little bit inside me, at the moment obviously it's all up in the air, so I think it's 50-50 that he'll stay or he'll go, because obviously they're all saying they'll stay at the moment because they don't know the actual ramifications of anything. Nothing has been said, nothing's been set in stone. They haven't even really discussed a 2-year ban. That I think in their head at the moment they're thinking it's not going to happen, which obviously I'll get onto later on. It could also affect them, obviously, again, like the star players. There's some star players, obviously Sterling's pledged that he'll stay as one of them. That was the main headline, that Sterling said he'd stay with Guardiola. But obviously there's players like Kevin De Bruyne, who's going on 29, I think, now, and obviously he's probably as much in his prime as he can be for a centre midfielder in his sort of position, and he doesn't have many years sort of left in his prime to win the Champions League, and that will probably be playing on his mind. I'm not saying he'll leave, but I think there's a good chance players like that who want to move on and win things before it gets too late for them could move on, because 2 years without Champions League is a long time of waiting to playing time. Loads could happen in that time. For example, you could get injured within the 2 years. It could put him out of football. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what's going to happen, so it's uncertain. So I think there's a chance that could affect them heavily. Players like that leaving, but then also on the other side of it, it'll affect. But if players like that do leave, it affects who they're bringing to replace them, because obviously if Guardiola's, I think that would be a big. If he did stay, I think that's a big swaying point for keep people coming in, because people will want to play under him just for the manager he is, and from obviously what he's done in the game and what he does is still doing to the game. But if he goes and the star players start to leave, you're going to have to get a manager in who people respect to get players and who don't want to play Champions League. But obviously that's going to be hard, because a lot of players taking a step up to the Premier League and Man City want to play in the Champions League, and obviously without that it's going to be quite hard to pull players in. They've still got an allure. They've done a lot recently. Obviously their academy's being built up. Their whole brand's being built up a little bit more since obviously they've won leagues. They've got Guardiola in. They've got all these star players. So I think still will attract people, but I don't think they would be able to sign the top names they get linked with, or sign like obviously like your De Bruyne's, your Aguero's, even like Rodri was a high player, like a highly rated player to sign, because obviously he just wasn't utilised at Atletico Madrid. But I feel like that would stop them signing good players that like to the level of what they want. Obviously, it might be a bit different because it might be sort of a bit of a rebuild in between to get ready for the Champions League. But I still think they struggle to get the players of calibre they want, because the players, anyone coming to the Premier League and a team of Manchester City standards want Champions League football. That's why they're coming. So I think that's one thing they struggle with. But alongside that, they'd also have to be careful who they sell, because obviously at the moment they need centre-backs, and they might not be able to get a good centre-back in to replace, obviously, Otamendi and Stones, I think, will go. And that means they have to get someone in. To get rid of them, you have to get someone in better, because obviously you don't want to sell players who are integrated into the team and part of the team and obviously know how the team want to play if you're not going to get someone in better. So obviously, in that mind, they might have to keep Otamendi or Stones, or Otamendi and Stones, because either they might not want people won't want to sign for the club, because obviously the Champions League, people say about it, is a big allure for football players. They might have to keep them just because they're uncertainty. You don't want to sell two centre backs or a centre back, not be able to replace them with someone quality, and then obviously have to battle to try. And obviously they won't really matter for them, because if they finish the top four in the league, they won't get qualification anyway. So, but that's what I mean. You're not going to be able to sign players, get rid of John Stones to impact your squad, to get someone, maybe not even get someone in to replace them, even though he's not that good for them. He's probably better. Obviously better than signing no one, but it's also better than signing someone who's either not as good as him or just as good as him, and doesn't know the system or want to play the system. So I think that's something they have to think about, who they're getting rid of, because obviously they need centre backs, but they can't afford to sell any if they're not going to be able to get someone in good to replace them, because there's no point in doing that. They have obviously a few players in the academy they could bring through, like Eric Garcia, but I'm not sure they're going to bring him through yet, because I said this doesn't seem likely. He hasn't had that many minutes, and I don't think it's sort of. It might force him to bring him through, but I still don't think they'll bring him through, because I don't think that's the way they completely operate. Or Pep completely operates. But that's all sort of what could happen. I'm going to go on to a little bit more now of what I think will happen, because it's a little bit different. But basically, I think what will happen is I think there's a good chance with anything, same with happened with the Chelsea transfer ban, that it could get downgraded to like maybe a year, or like, you know what I mean, like a year ban. I think they'll still get a ban, because I don't think they're on that good terms. Obviously, there are other teams. People are saying other teams have had this issue, like PSG and Barcelona have the same issues, but obviously they got treated differently. But I think it's because obviously it's shown with PSG, their owner wanted to comply with UEFA. They went back to UEFA going, oh, how can we solve this? How can we make this not an issue? And how can we work through it? And they kept going back and having good communication with UEFA. And obviously through that, he now has a job on the UEFA board. Like, obviously he got the job through obviously self-gain and to benefit him, but he actually works alongside to get the job, obviously to help his team avoid that again. Obviously nothing's pure in football, I don't think, anymore. No, that is not like it was a pure intention just to actually make the team better. It was just to avoid sanctions and further sanctions, obviously, and carry on operating as they are. But obviously you sort of need that. But Man City have sort of given it the old, like, stick the finger up and gone, we're doing this our way. How can you tell us what to do and all that? And I think that's going to leave a sour taste. So I think UEFA, as bad as it sounds, because football is quite petty, they're going to try and rinse them for what they're worth. Even if they can't get the 2-year ban in, they're going to try and get some sort of ban in or something to harm Manchester City because they don't want to they weren't collaborating. But I think it'll. Part of me thinks it will stay as a 2-year, especially for that reason, because UEFA are just going to push and push and push until they get that way because they haven't cooperated. But then the other part of me thinks that obviously UEFA can't keep pushing and pushing and pushing if Manchester City's lawyers prove that there's either not wrongdoing or less wrongdoing they've been accused of. So I still think it will maybe. It may not even happen. I have a feeling the Champions League ban won't happen, but I reckon if it does, it'll only be a year ban. It won't be the 2-year ban because obviously I think that's modern football. A lot of things start off at this massive thing going, 2-year ban for football, they won't be able to play it, but then it always end up nearer the time of, they're downgraded it to a 1-year ban and this sort of fine. But as I said, the fine won't affect them. The £30 million fine, it'll just be, especially with the money they've got, it'll just be water for ducks back. Just literally straight payment done. So that's why I mentioned the payment. The payment won't really affect them, but I think it'll be a 1-year ban, maybe at most. Especially with the lawyers, they got money to get the best lawyers. So even if you're in the wrong, the best lawyers always do a good job of getting you out of the wrong, or at least limiting damage. Like I said, so the year's ban would be limited damage. Also, I think that what will happen is I've heard it talked about as well, and obviously it's not a new theory, but I think obviously it's going to drag out. It's not going to be solved within the next 3 weeks. I think it's going to take up to 6-12 months to be sorted, and Man City are going to keep pushing that anyway, even if they are in the wrong, because that means they're going to get another year of Champions League football because the sanction won't come in before, and the decision won't be reached before the new season. And obviously, once this season's over and the sanction hasn't come in, they've qualified. So I think they'll push that agenda, whatever, and I think it will take that long anyway because it's going to be a lengthy process. Does that mean Sheffield United or 5th place will get Champions League spot? I don't think it's going to this year because it's not going to be sorted that quickly, and I don't think Man City are going to want to sort it that quickly because even if they, obviously, like what they've been doing is not right, and football is quite corrupt, but on the borderline, you look at it, it's not right what they've done, and I don't think they're in the right in any way whatsoever. But I still think it will, they're going to stretch it out because they want to get Champions League again next year. But I think that will happen basically. But that's all it really is. I think worst of all, they're probably paying 30 million. If it is 30 million, it doesn't get downgraded. Probably a 1-year ban from Champions League football. I don't think it'd be anything more than that. But apart from that, really, I think it will limit them for the first year. But if a year won't really limit them. All the things I said before about the 2 years, that if it's 2 years, they might be in a bit of trouble. But 1 year, you could probably get a player in and go, even if they don't, because they said it probably will come into a few years' time. So even if they go, we got it this year, we've got Champions League, come in and play Champions League this year, we'll have a break off, we'll get some other players in, they'll get all the players they need now while they can still play in Champions League and have that allure. They'll only have a year out of it, and then they'll go straight back into it again with all these players probably better in shape than they were because they'd have more time to probably work on it. So I'll give you my final points, really, and my final thoughts. And obviously, I don't think it's right. Financial fair play is a bit of an odd topic because I know there's a lot of people who don't agree with it, especially people with not smaller clubs but smaller earning clubs. So but because it stops them being ambitious. But I think there needs to be. I think it's there for obviously it's there for a reason. I think it sort of works quite well because obviously you need to be making money to spend money, and it stops clubs. Obviously, we've had teams drop out the league, League Two recently, with Bury and that, and it stops that happening as such. Obviously, it's only with the top clubs and that really it works well, but it stopped teams like that going into masses of debt and spending more money than they are because you don't want to see teams dropping out of football. So I think obviously it could be better, and everyone agrees. I think finance for play could work a little bit better, but obviously with the scenario we've got at the moment, I think it's there and it's working decently well. I think it will be downgraded again up to a 1-year ban. I don't think the 2-year. I'll be very, very surprised if they actually manage to implement the 2-year ban, especially with the lawyers Manchester City got, and just as I said, just the way football is. The more money you have, the more you can get away with. Especially because you're going to get the better lawyers. I say the better lawyers, even if you're in the wrong, it still manage to get you out or limit damage because that's why they're doing their job. And yeah, I think Pep will go within that anyway. So I don't think he'll sign a new contract. He doesn't really sign new contracts. So I think he'll be gone either way. But whether it's sooner or later, either he jumps himself or he's pushed due to them not being able to win Champions League and they want to get someone in else to win the Champions League because that's what he's there for. But apart from that, it's that and sign players. They'll struggle to sign players, and obviously with their thing at the moment where they do need centre backs, it'll be a bit hard for them to get someone in of a. I wouldn't say it's hard to get him a better quality. They're not a Mendy and Stones, but it's a bit risky getting rid of one of them or both of them to not sign someone any better, to sign someone who could be just as bad, or they'll be good in their league but come over and just not be able to adapt to it. So it's a bit of a risk, and they might have to play with that risk a little bit by either keeping one of them or both of them. But I think they're gonna. Obviously they're gonna be okay. The Man City, they've got stupid amounts of money. They'll probably, even if they do get man for Champions League, they'll find a way to make money. I think they could end up going out to do it. Like I've heard theories from I heard it on the Football Ramble Daily from Jules and Andy, where they're saying they wouldn't be surprised if they went out in the season and just did friendlies, just did big marquee friendlies like they do in pre-season, where they make a load of money from it, because obviously they're losing out on, I think it's 77. I think they made £77 million from the Champions League last year, and that's a big chunk of revenue to be losing, especially when you're being done for financial fair play as well. So you want to be making more money so they can keep up with what they're spending again, because obviously they're going to keep spending money. It's how they operate, how it's modern football. But I still think I think that's a viable thing where they could go out and start playing these big marquee friendlies, making money during the season, because football, as much as people hate it, football is a money making machine. It's not. A lot of people use it to make money and make money for themselves. Like there's a few clubs obviously run well and properly run well, but it's in the end of the day, it's to make money. So I think I think that could be an odd possibility. It's like 25% it'll happen, but I still think when thinking about it, it's something. If they don't do it, it could happen in the future. But that's all my thoughts on it, guys. Obviously this is the first video, so if you enjoyed it, subscribe and drop a like. Anything you want me to talk about, put in the comments as well. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you later.